Unsolicited advice for Bibi from a friend. The execution of the 6 Israeli hostages, including an American dual citizen a few days ago, was shocking, only to the extent I was unsurprised. I was unsurprised Hamas is capable of such brutality, and I was unsurprised to witness ignorant pro-Hamas mobs in Western democracies gleefully celebrate their cruel fate. Although I felt feelings of anger, sadness, and guilt when I learned of the news, if I'm being honest, I mainly felt numb. Becoming desensitized to such great tragedies is perhaps one of the greatest travesties of this war. We need Bibi to lead us from this darkness. Whether you're on the right or left, whether you like him or don't like him, whether you're Israeli or from somewhere else, we all need him to be an effective and transformative leader right now. Bibi is capable of it. He is performing mostly admirably in absurdly difficult circumstances under more pressure than most humans are capable of enduring. He's surrounded by brutal terror organizations on all sides and must contend with a cold and sometimes hostile ally in this U.S. administration, all while dealing with civil strife at home. Before we talk about his way out, let's look closer at the current situation. Hamas, having been repeatedly embarrassed by a slew of successful IDF rescue missions, is now overtly murdering hostages to further divide Israeli society against Bibi. More innocent hostages will lose their lives while the world bafflingly continues to pressure Israel because they either mistakenly believe that this conflict is about land and that Hamas's goal is to establish a state, or more likely because they hate Jews. Bibi and most Israelis understand the truth that radical Islamists will never abide the existence of Israel in any form and that Israel must be given the space to definitively win this war. Even the most ardent supporters of a two-state solution, myself included, are beginning to wake up to this reality. Unlike America, Israel cannot afford to lose wars. Israel should not be taking military advice from America, a country that has lost most wars they've participated in since World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and Iraq or Afghanistan. Make no mistake, losing these wars has nothing to do with America's technological or military prowess, and everything to do with our country's complete lack of moral clarity that we deserve to win if it involves death and destruction. All war involves death and destruction. War is hell. When you send men and women to war, you must be certain and your willingness to win must be absolute. Somehow, somewhere along the way, we've forgotten this. Is it any wonder most military branches in the U.S. can no longer meet their military recruitment quotas? Even if you hate Bibi, he at least understands that in order to defeat a determined enemy, they must be destroyed. By forcing Israel to constantly fight to a draw, as opposed to being allowed to win decisively, America, and the international community more broadly, are perpetuating this conflict needlessly. Bibi is trying to shatter the status quo that serves neither Israelis nor Palestinians, and I support him in this difficult endeavor. Bibi understands our enemy. I say our because radical Islamist terror organizations are also the enemy of Western democracies, an inconvenient fact isolationists often choose to forget. Hamas's military objective is to draw out the war as long as possible to put their own citizens in harm's way so they can continue to manipulate useful idiots in the West to help them win politically. Their plan is as cynical and evil as it gets. They fully understand holding and executing hostages will threaten the lives of their own soldiers, civilians, and infrastructure in Gaza and the West Bank. And yet they could care less because the world continues to reward them for their wickedness. We've known all this for years, decades even. It's all become so predictable that it's boring to talk about, but necessary to keep reminding people. It's important to remind people so they realize they are blaming Bibi for the conflict, because deep down they know Hamas cannot be negotiated with. Hamas can only be deterred and defeated by overwhelming brute force. As much as we want to ignore this harsh reality by blaming Bibi, blaming him won't lead us down a path to ending the pain and suffering, and won't free the hostages. Supporting Bibi and allowing him to lead us to victory might. I'd like to give some advice to Bibi, if he'll listen to someone like me. Someone who is just another Jew with an opinion, but who loves Israel. Dear Bibi, first, I understand your urge to discount most advice, especially from an American Jew like me, who failed to assimilate into Israeli society a decade ago. You're smarter than I am too. You went to better schools and you're a great public speaker and debater. You're stronger than me. You served in a more prestigious unit, and you can probably beat me up. You understand the Middle East and Israel better than I ever could. It's no wonder you've survived Israeli politics for so long. But I have something you don't. My perspective as a friendly outside observer. I believe I can be somewhat objective in this moment. Great leaders have blind spots. Indulge me while I try to illuminate some of yours. Here are two concrete choices you can make that could make a dramatic impact on the war effort by uniting your people, both at home and in the Jewish diaspora. 1. Take responsibility for October 7th. Full stop. Yes, I know it's the Middle East. I know that never showing weakness is part of the game. Whatever chess game you believe you're playing, the rules have changed. You're fighting past wars with old strategies. In our current world order, I believe it's more important to unite people and maintain their resolve to win, as opposed to past wars where degrading your enemies' will and capability to fight was more important. You have a difficult job to do. You have to learn how to win a war as a Western democracy in the age of the internet. An age where people can see the brutality of war in real time on their phone. When couch commanders can criticize your every move while they eat Doritos and binge-watch Gilmore Girls on Netflix. There's no roadmap you can look at for how to do it that I can show you, but I know it can't be done without the strength and support of the majority of citizens behind you. Here are the words you can't seem to find to unite Israelis and diaspora Jews right now, and hopefully some of the broader international community. As the Prime Minister of Israel, the buck stops with me. Although many people and institutions were responsible for the intelligence failures that enabled October 7th, as Prime Minister, I am ultimately responsible. When the war is over, I will continue to serve Israeli society as best I can. We will hold elections and I do not intend to run. But let me be clear, we are facing an existential threat and the path forward will be difficult. Let me make the necessary and unpopular decisions to ensure future generations of Israelis thrive in our indigenous homeland. Unite behind me in this moment so we can be victorious, and I will take responsibility for the government and military failures that led us here. You don't want October 7th to be your legacy. I get it. But leaders take responsibility when the shit hits the fan on their watch. 2. Paint a vision of the future for the Middle East that inspires us. People want a vision for the future so they understand what they are fighting for and to know their sacrifices will not be in vain. I am glad you are holding strong about withdrawal from the Egyptian and Gaza border, but what about the decades to come? Will soldiers continue losing their lives for decades or centuries in order to enforce a new status quo of attrition? Sure, you've talked about de-radicalization, but is that even possible? I am not sure that the radical Islamist ideologies we're fighting can be compared to German and Japanese nationalism during World War II. I want to understand your vision for the future and why it is not only bright, but also attainable. We want specifics. Show us a comprehensive plan. How can Israel reduce reliance on foreign aid? How can Israel strengthen her national security interests longer term? If you do not support a two-state solution, what does a one-state solution look like? I have some ideas on these topics I'd like to discuss more in future editorials, but I am more interested right now in hearing your ideas. I understand why you might not want to articulate your vision for the future. You're probably concerned that as soon as you do, you'll immediately divide Israeli society further. I don't think that's the case. I believe once you voice your ideas, you'll get constructive feedback to enhance those ideas, and it will lead to better policy outcomes. You have giant balls. Stop being afraid to tell us the plan. Trust that we can handle it. That's it. I know you're busy. I hope you listen to my advice and give us a reason to unite behind in this crucial moment. We're all painfully numb, and we need you to rise above your own ego no matter what that means for your political future and legacy. I know you have it in you. I hope to see it. Until next time, Maccabee Nation.